Good evening and welcome to this West Orange Board of Education Public Board Meeting, November 8th, 2021. This meeting is officially called to order. Good evening, Dr. Cascone, fellow members of the board, student liaisons, and Mrs. Flowers. Would you kindly do the honors?
Good evening, everyone. Roll call. Ms. Huerta?
Here.
Ms. Merklinger?
Here.
Mr. Rothstein?
Here.
Vice President Tunnicliffe?
Here.
President Trigg Scales?
Here.
Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. It's been a while since we've been together. We just came off of a 3-day week with the Teachers Convention. And so I was talking to our liaisons over there, finding out how they spent their time. So I'm sure they'll tell us. So I'd like to entertain a motion for consideration of the closed and public meeting minutes of October 12th and 18th, 2021, and that is attachment 1.
I would like to make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Rothstein. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Vice President Tunnicliffe. Any discussion? There being none, Mrs. Flowers, please.
Mrs. Huerta?
Yes.
Ms. Merklinger?
Yes.
Mr. Rothstein?
Yes.
Vice President Tunnicliffe?
Yes.
President Trigg Scales?
Yes,
Thank you.
and that brings us right up to our student liaison report, and we're going to welcome Adrian and Hiyab tonight. And it's all yours, gentlemen.
Thank you, President Trigg Scales. This year, we're proud to announce our first ever all-inclusive homecoming royalty, which was won by seniors Kylie Capstraw and Ayush Narain during the West Orange Montclair football game held in Steriano Stadium. District Band Night was also returned to the West Orange High School on October 15th, and middle schoolers from Edison, Liberty, and Roosevelt joined forces with the award-winning Mountaineer Marching Band. Hiyab can elaborate on this event.
Yeah, just to elaborate further, the middle school band teachers, along with the high school band teachers, coordinated to bring their aspiring musicians to play with the marching band throughout the evening. The event allowed the students to meet fellow musicians from the high school, meet the band teachers, and have the experience of a live action football game under the lights at Steriano Stadium as the high school played against Montclair. And just one further thing to bring up, the fall play, the Laramie Project, begins this week. Tickets are on sale, and the show is next Friday on November 12th and Saturday, November 13th at 7 p.m.
Thank you. And just want to also mention that we had our other king and queen that evening, and that was Gabriel Evans and Angelica Hercules. So we just want to give them a shout out as well. And thank you very much. And it brings us up to Superintendent reports. Dr. Cascone. We have a very interesting and lengthy presentation this evening. So I know the board is very much looking forward to the presentation. So thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, President Trigg Scales, members of the board, those gathered with us this evening. Yes, so tonight we have a presentation which seeks to provide an update to the community on some of our work in the areas of diversity and equity, more specifically in the area of recruitment and hiring of diverse staff. Secondly is, and I'm happy to have Dr. Vespignani, our Executive Director of Personnel, here tonight to present on that topic. We were also going to present on graduation rate and provide some more specific information as to the post-secondary path of our class of 2021. with some breakdowns by demographics. And I'm happy to have Ms. Cheryl Butler here tonight, our Director of Student Counseling Services. And finally is to just provide an update relative to the equity audit in which we're engaging presently. In fact, today, November 8th, the equity survey, which went out, closed. So that kind of represents a key benchmark, if you will, and moving forward. And I'm happy to have Dr. Tamika Pollins here this evening, our District Director of Intervention and Accountability, to give an update on that as well. Just before we turn it over to the presentation, just a few other just kind of items I wanted to mention to the community. So yes, indeed, we had a short week last week, but it was a busy week. We did conduct a district-wide staff development day on November 2nd with really a comprehensive set of professional development offerings for all of our staff, catered to their departments and their needs. We had some teams that were quite active in their bids for state championships. Our boys soccer team actually played in one, and then today played in the semifinal of the state sectional tournament and beat Clifton, I believe 4-0. As I don't know if that's how it ended. Yeah, 4-0, a great win. And we'll now face Kearney. Kearney? I'm not sure whether, is it Kearney? They were playing Passaic. Anyway, either Kearney or Passaic, and that'll be on Thursday. And our girls also won in the quarterfinal match. And they will face Livingston tomorrow in the semifinal of the state sectional tournament. We also saw our football team on Friday night beat Westfield. I believe that would be considered the quarterfinal. And now they'll move on to the semifinal game, which is Saturday at 1 o'clock at East Orange. And I don't recall the name of the tournament, but just this was a couple weeks ago. And Vice President Tunnicliffe, help me with the name of the tournament that our marching band placed second. Pretty big, prestigious tournament.
The New Jersey Band Directors Association.
Yeah,
So
it's a laurie to track some of the most competitive bands in the state. And our band finished overall second, but also took home some high marks and places for some of the other categories. So an outstanding season for our marching band, and our kids continue to achieve and make us proud in all different areas. On a completely separate note, but one which I think is worth mentioning and the public might be interested in hearing about. I did have our first onboarding meeting today with our testing provider through the state. And so now I will be working internally with administrators to understand how we can get that program, that student testing program, up and running as soon as possible. That would be an opt-in program for parents. And there'll be more details on that forthcoming, but I'm pleased that we're going to be able to get that up and running in advance of the winter season and the forthcoming cold and flu season. So just a few updates, but at this time, I would invite the board to come down off the dais to view the presentation. Dr. Vespignani, please feel free to come to the podium.
Good evening, and thank you, Dr. Cascone, Board of Education members and community. I'm really excited to be joining you tonight to provide an update on the action plan that I had presented at our virtual meeting last year on October 5th. Before I begin, also wanted to thank and recognize my HR team, which is a really talented, dedicated, hardworking group of individuals. Sometimes HR is kind of behind the scenes, and just wanted to recognize them. They truly do a great job every day in my office. That's Linda Teresi, Kathy Winston, Kim Stecker, and Carla Mignata. They do a really fine job, and many of the areas that I share with you tonight are a reflection of their hard work, and we really couldn't proceed with all these great partnerships and memberships without that. Also, thank you to Dr. Cascone for his leadership in this area. And clearly, as a director of personnel, it makes life much easier when you have a superintendent working with you and trying to move the ball forward, as they say, in regard to diversifying the workforce and the candidate pool. So thank you for that. And again, to the board, just I appreciate your time this evening and really excited to showcase some of the various things that have been occurring, again, perhaps behind the scenes. You may have observed them on various Board of Education meetings as you have approved different memberships and partnerships. And I think you'll see a culmination of all of that this evening. And I should note that, whereas we'll see what I think will be some progress in regards to laying the foundational work in regard to fostering these partnerships, and we'll review some data tonight together as well. Please know that this is merely the beginning. The work is still there to be done. This is I think a step in making this cultural shift, but there's still much work to be done. All right, so just an update on the action plan. You may recall these were the 4 areas from last year, and in the various slides that I have prepared for you this evening, I'll share updates on each category. The first was in regard to outreach and exploration of additional partnerships, indicating a minimum of 5 with colleges and universities, local organizations. The second area was in regard to really placing the district prominently on the career fair circuit. There are many career fairs. Many have shifted towards virtual, but I think it's important to have a presence, not just here locally in northern New Jersey, but you'll see in central Jersey and even on the regional and national level. Also then to research the structure of homegrown programs. We do have a current Tomorrow's Teacher program. So what we've done is gone out and taken a look at some other options that may be available. And lastly, what we're doing this evening, presenting an update on diverse candidates and doing so on an annual basis. All right, so just to share some of the partnerships and memberships that we have been able to accomplish this past year, and we'll continue to foster them and cultivate those partnerships. Again, this is it's been very much a foundational year. NEMNet, you may recall, was board approved as really a national resource that provides support to over 500 districts in regard to recruiting minority candidates, as they say, if you visit their website. NEMNet also allows us to post all of our vacancies on their tech platform. So when we have our various vacancies, we're not only sharing them on the district website, which then kicks out to K-12 JobSpot. We often post in nj.com or the Star Ledger, but this provides another resource for us to post our vacancies. They also have a regional career fair that I'm keeping my finger on the pulse on once they release the information. Being a member, it now gives us access to participate in their regional career fair. I know at one point they hosted one in Newark and also in Philadelphia. Montclair State, the district has had an existing partnership with, but we wanted to explore some other areas. Last year I attended their local career fair, but this was the one area that we explored actually recently to take a look at their dual credit program in regard to a homegrown recruitment program. On October 8th, myself, Ms. Butler, Ms. Flowers, Mr. Moore, Ms. Towson, and Ms. Mullen all joined the director of the School of Education and some of her partners there to explore the feasibility of bringing an additional dual credit program or a similar model, because they have great flexibility, to West Orange. So we're moving that forward in regard to exploration. We did do a debriefing internally as well. With these types of programs, there are many things to consider. Tuition, for example, how will it work in regard to which class alignment for dual credit? But the potential partnership with Montclair State is there, and that's something that we're currently exploring. The New Jersey 2021 Education Career Fair is a consortium of several schools of education. I participated in that career fair last year. Rider University, Central Right Jersey, again, another career fair opportunity there. And Rider is the existing, you may recall, the district has an MOA with Rider University for the Tomorrow's Teacher program. Last year, I had reached out to NJIT. This is not a university that has a School of Education program. The idea here was to recruit individuals into the STEAM-related potential vacancies. And what I did was provided them with information on how to go alternate route, which is another pathway to certification outside of your traditional School of Education model. So I worked with the career services there to provide a virtual career fair last year, and we'll look to do the same again this year. And the West Orange virtual career fair last year, historically, the district has had a career fair. We were able to do it virtually last year, and I think it worked really well. We had 55 participants. I should note that we had 17 participants, registrants from NEMNET. So I think that was a positive sign that our partnership with them, at the very least, is helping attract and recruit additional candidates. I can also share that the board has gone on to employ 5 individuals from this virtual career fair last year, 2 of which were teachers and 3 are paras. And the Metro YMCA of the Oranges and Fairleigh Dickinson University, I'll highlight more robustly in another slide, but we've developed a staff wellness program with the Y and an educational leadership program with FDU. Just some training and networking. I've attended several seminars and I've represented the district to develop strategies. And I think more importantly, or equally important, is to build our network. So these are the 4 that I participated in. Most recently was the Great Schools of New Jersey, the last bullet item there. And I'm thrilled to share that actually with our partnership that we're developing with Montclair State, the director there was one of the presenters at this workshop. And to my delight, when she was presenting, in her PowerPoint, she had West Orange listed, recognizing us as a district who is committed to diversifying the candidate pool and ultimately the workforce. So I wanted to share that because, we're not in this work alone. I believe, just want to go back here. I definitely went past Central Jersey Program for Recruitment of Diverse Educators, CJ Pride. So I want to make sure I just pull back to that because it's related to this point. This is a new membership that the board had approved. It's a consortium of 55 school districts, all of whom are committed to diversifying their workforces within their district. So as I was making my point on the next slide, this is not unique to West Orange. I think it's important to network with these various districts. And I serve on the subcommittee of recruitment and retention on CJ Pride. And it's comprised of, other personnel directors throughout the state. We see it's primarily based in Central Jersey. This membership not only allows us to network with these other school districts, but also now attend their career fair in March. So I look forward to that. And I was just sharing that at the Great Schools of New Jersey, again, to my delight, the director had, indicated West Orange as a district that's committed to this. So I thought that was really great to see. Just wanted to touch base in regard to the human capital management system that I had shared last year, because I think a mistake that a lot of organizations may make is putting a lot of effort, resources into the planning and recruitment end. But if we don't consider what occurs after that, the induction, the level of support, the development, the professional growth, and the retention measures, I think clearly you need to have all these in alignment. So just a few items that we've been doing here in West Orange in regard to induction, development, and retention. Induction in school districts is typically new staff orientation, maybe 2 days in the summer, professional development days carved out for the school year, mentoring for first-year teachers. But we've made it a focus to really expand upon that because the regulations are just that. And across the state, what you'll see is kind of a patchwork of induction programs. So we wanted to make sure that we are providing a robust induction program that supports our new staff members. So our new staff orientation program is a 2-year program. We went through a refresh last year and found it to be very successful. It is all things related to Google. So it provides additional technological training for not only our first-year teachers, but our second-year teachers as well as they acclimate to the district. I also do a 30, 60, 90-day check-in. This is typically more, I think you'll find this more in the corporate world of HR, but I find it works well in public education. Just a great way for me to keep my finger on the pulse of our new staff members. How are they acclimating? I have a series of questions at each benchmark. Hey, how are you doing? Any challenges? Anything we can help you with? Do you have access to everything that you need? Do you feel comfortable working in the district? And it's just a great way to connect with our new staff members and support them along the way. And I think that's differentiates the district from others. I had mentioned the educational leadership program with FDU. This program specifically went through a refresh, and they have a focus now on social justice leadership. I know we do have two staff members who are participating and enrolled in that, matriculated in that program. And the idea here is to then have them complete their internships here in district, addressing some of the issues and concerns that we may have as administration and as a board. So I think it works really well. I had mentioned staff wellness and the YMCA. The YMCA generously has provided a 20% subsidized membership for all employees and their families. As the folks at the Y will say, there's so much more than gym and swim. They have many other programs, including a Live Strong program for employees who have the unfortunate experience of diagnosis of cancer or a family member, diabetes management, things of that nature. So it's just a great support mechanism for those employees who may wish to participate in the membership there. I've also produced a quarterly HR newsletter, purely celebratory, welcoming our new hires. Dr. C provides a quarterly shout out to staff members. I don't think we celebrate enough in our profession, and I think this is a really great mechanism to do so. All of these items that we're implementing in regard to induction, development, and ultimately retention, when I go on a career fair and I'm going on recruiting efforts, I always share these different opportunities and various programs that we have, because from a recruiting standpoint, again, I think it really distinguishes us from other districts, because I know in my experiences in talking to other personnel directors, this isn't always the case. They don't always have these types of programs. Just very briefly, last year I had shared this, but if we are focused on diversifying the candidate pool, I think the initial contact that an applicant might have with either the district website or the application process in regard to branding, this provides an opportunity for the district to really highlight the values, the culture, and the goals. So this statement in italics here is what we have in all of our postings. It's listed on the employment tab and on the district website as well. So you see here that we are upfront with the candidates we are seeking. We pride ourselves on the diversity of our student body. We are committed to fostering a culturally responsive staff, and we are encouraging applicants of diverse backgrounds to apply. And the online application, recruiting and hiring, is the tool that we use. It's a frontline product. We have many frontline products, and this is the one where candidates will apply. Approximately 70% of school districts in New Jersey use recruiting and hiring. It comes with a standard question. So when applicants apply, they can very easily cut and paste. I believe it's, what are the outstanding attributes of an educator? And what we've done here is we've massaged that and provided actually 3 questions. And probably candidates, look at this and I think it reflects well, but also then it enables them to think critically and receive information about what the district is seeking in candidates. And this first question here I'm sharing because I always ask this when I meet with the final interview with candidates. I indicate that I've read their written response, but it's an opportunity to expand upon, and we engage in a conversation around this question when I ask them to provide an example of how they fostered an inclusive environment that ensures students from all backgrounds feel celebrated and included, while also preparing them for real life success. So that relevancy piece in there as well. All right, kind of shifting gears here into the staff data and an update on this. HR has been monitoring this data for, since July 1st of 2020. That enables us to see any shifts in percentages in specific locations. It also uncovers some of the disproportional numbers that we know exist. I should note that all new hires complete a SMID form, staff member identification. This is a state form, and then this includes demographic data, so all data is self-reported. I think it's important to first note the current student data. The snapshot was taken on September 30th of this year, similar to some of the other data that I'll share with you this evening. One notable item in comparison to last year, you may recall that last year, the Black or African-American population was about 36%, and the Hispanic population was around that 33%. Here, we actually see a shift where the Hispanic population is now at 35%, and the Black or African-American population is at 33.7%. From what I understand, and just doing a little bit of research, I see that the district at one point engaged in demographic study. And I believe historically, or at least in the past 10 to 15 years, the Black or African-American population has been the largest group. But we see here a slight shift. And for this year, we see the Hispanic population as the largest group. In regard to staff data, this snapshot was taken on, again, September 30th. I do have some side-by-sides that the board will see in the presentation. So, we'll get a chance to look at the two pie charts in comparison. But here, of course, we see, a slightly different, percentages in regard to the various groups, with white being the largest group at 65.6%. I know that last year we had engaged in a conversation about, well, is this faculty, is this staff? I remember Mr. Ralston had asked, a question in regard to the disaggregated data for certificated and non. So I wanted to follow up on that. And in fact, when Dr. Cascone and I had participated in a roundtable with the Diversity Council at St. Cloud, the same question came up. So I wanted to make sure that we're following up on that. And whereas I don't want to take too deep a dive into this data, I did want the board and the community to have it, for their time to review. And I'll just kind of scroll down here. What we see in each location, including central office and transportation, the first line item for each location is certificated staff, and the second line item is non-certificated staff. Examples of certificated staff would, of course, be teachers, administrators. Examples of non-certificated staff would be paraprofessionals, administrative assistants, clerical, custodial. So I wanted to provide this data because what we see is a breakdown of the percentages within each location, within each group. We see the percentage of the certificated and non-certificated. So in other words, if we were to look at Edison, we see 6.41% and then 1.28%. That makes up the total percentage population for Asian at Edison. But we see there, at least in that situation, that the larger percentage is in the certificated staff. And we see that, across the board, they're the same for the Black or African American population. We see Hispanic is the same at 1.28, and then two or more races, 10.26, and then the white population at 48.72. So again, I just wanted to share this data, just doing a kind of an overview analysis. In 28 categories, we see the non-certificated percentage higher, and in 23 categories, we see the certificated either equal to or higher than the percentage of non-certificated. All right, and just a comparison for our current student population and current all staff. So this is not disaggregated data. This is all certificated and non-certificated together. And when you see the side by side, obviously we see some, disproportional percentages there. Wanted to provide an update in alignment with the action plan. These are the percentages of all new hires, certificated and non-combined, from July 1st of 2020 until the snapshot taken on September 30th of 2021. And we see here some slightly different percentages. And again, I have a side-by-side, but before we get to that, also just wanted to provide, since it's just two rows here, I didn't feel the need to do a separate PDF similar to the last disaggregated data, but here we see just our new hires now broken up, certificated and non-certificated. So we see the percentages there. And these numbers are in alignment with the data on the previous slide. And a side-by-side comparison. Again, this is our student population snapshot on September 30th. And then all new hires, again, not disaggregated by certificated and non-combined. But what we see here is that in 3 categories, Asian, Black or African American, and Hispanic, we see some increases in their comparison, what you'll see on the next slide, to our all staff percentages. So we see that here. And I think what we can basically pull from this information is that there has been, again, some modest progress. The work's not done, but what we see is that the Asian population for new hires has surpassed the Asian population for all new staff. We see the same in the Black or African American population, Hispanic population, and then a comparable number for 2 or more races. Next steps are to continue to foster and seek partnerships with colleges and universities. Again, this work is, we're not alone in this. It's not unique to West Orange, but we're very, I would say, proud of the foundational year that we've gone through this year. I should note that schools of education, and I'm taking this directly from our conversation with the director and her team at Montclair State. We had asked, what their demographics look like in their school of education. And, they also had indicated that they are struggling to attract and recruit diverse candidates into the profession of teaching. So, we're partnering with them. We're working with various colleges and universities. But again, we're really not alone in this work. We're looking to continue to increase our recruiting efforts and have a presence at other college career fairs and career fairs overall. To continue to increase our visibility at seminars to build our network. This last point, or second to last point, to determine the best option for a homegrown recruitment program. The current program that we have with the MOA with Rider University began in 2013. There are 89 students who participated in that program. I recently requested that data as kind of a branch out from our conversation with the folks at Montclair State. I can share that of those 89, the board has employed one graduate from that program, and that person is actually no longer with the district. So I'm sharing that because I see an opportunity here to improve the recruitment efforts within that existing program. I've reached out to Ms. Mullen, who has oversight, and I've requested for me personally to go in and meet with the students, highlight the process for certification, let them know that they can begin now subbing after 30 credits while attending a university or college. They have to be age 20. But I think it's a missed opportunity there to recruit from that program, in addition to maybe layering on some other partnerships that may be a benefit and expose students to the great profession of education. And lastly, we'll continue to monitor the number of diverse candidates for this year and present on an annual basis. One current mechanism that we're looking to implement, I created a form and recently shared it with Dr. Cascone. I'd like to tap into kind of the finer details of what those actual interview processes look like in regard to the number of applicants, and then at each phase have administrators provide some data in regard to the diversity of those interview searches. That way, at central office, we're receiving additional information in regard to the candidates who participate in the process. I do have access to recruiting and hiring and can look at the total number, can run reports, but I wouldn't know necessarily from doing so the actual candidates who participated in that search, other than the finalists who are recommended ultimately to the superintendent and then to the board. So that's one thing that we're looking into and exploring at present. And I would say lastly, I know we have our student liaisons here tonight. I had mentioned to Dr. Cascone, I would love to hear and meet with the student council or student liaisons. I think it's really critical that students are empowered to have a voice in this process. Would love to hear from the students in regard to, what are the attributes that you are seeking in your teachers and staff members. So I look forward to engaging in that process as well. So not sure if we're pausing here for questions. We're going to keep rolling. Very well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vespignani. So, not necessarily connected other than by tangent that, all these presentations relate to our diversity and equity initiatives. And by code, by New Jersey Administrative Code, the administration are required to present to the Board of Education annually on graduation rate. So that is part of what we're doing tonight, Ms. Butler and I. Ms. Butler, if I could just ask you to come up to the podium. I, of course, can certainly capable to present on this data, but Ms. Butler is far more versed with it, as she and her department play a critical role in working with our students relative to their post-secondary path. So with that, I'll turn the podium over to Ms. Butler.
Thank you. First of all, I want to say good evening to all and to thank you for affording me this opportunity to come and speak about our post-secondary graduation plans for our students. This past year, well, 18 months, longer than that now, a year and a half, our seniors, our class of 2021 had a difficult time. They had a difficult time with being in school, just participating in school. And when it came time for us to really hone in on what's next for them, it was difficult for many of our students to really think about and make a solid plan as to where they were going and what they were doing for various reasons. Some of the reasons are indicated here. We surveyed our students because initially at the right prior to our students graduating last year, we were not getting enough information from our students as to where are you going next. And many of them were very uncertain as to where they were going for the various reasons that are listed here. Some were afraid to even leave home, go away from home because of not knowing what to expect once they got on campus. So we continued to push. I got to thank the school counselors. They were extremely instrumental, phenomenal in just reaching out to the students, doing that outreach and leading them and guiding them through this process, encouraging them to just go on and move on, and that everything would work out for them. Some of the many of the statistics that we have here with the New Jersey NJ SMART, each year we receive a report from the NJ SMART. The results of that information is not finalized until after November, the end of November. It's usually around November 30th. We receive a final report from NJ SMART that will indicate to us our graduation rate, our post-secondary plans for our students. Currently, the graduation rate that they have in the system currently was 91.5% for the class, the cohort 2022. The end of November, there will be a finalized report. Generally, that initial report may not include our students who have graduated this summer. Any students who we have to submit an appeal for. The students that we submit an appeal for are students that have left our district, went to another district, and that other district, in essence, didn't pick that student up or identify that student in the as having that student in the system as of yet. There were only 5 students that we had to submit an appeal to the state for in reference to those particular students. So November 30th, a report should come out from NJ SMART. The information that is provided, the statistics should be very accurate here, very close, if not higher than what is indicated here. As you can see, many of our students did have plans. There were, I think, 5 students that are unknown, not knowing where they were going to go, what they were going to do, how they were going to proceed. But as you can see, for the most part, our students, the majority of the class were attending a 4-year college or university. 60 of those students were the 2-year, and then we have some who are entering into employment or even into the military. There we have the numbers, not only the total numbers of students who will be attending or who are attending those various post-secondary plans, but also the percentage as well. Here we broke it down into the ethnic or racial identity of the individuals from each one of the post-secondary plans also. And if we, it's aligned to much of the data that Dr. Vespignani had discussed or provided to us this evening. The numbers here indicate just that. Some of the colleges or universities that our students are attending this year, the class of cohort 2021 are indicated here. We have, our students are all over there, East Coast, West Coast, the middle. We have students who are attending colleges and universities throughout the United States, and these are just a few of the schools that are, well, all of the schools that our students are attending. Thank you.
And I just want to reiterate, because I think it's noteworthy in a presentation about equity and where we're oftentimes calling out disproportionalities where they exist. I think it's also important to identify when they don't exist. And I think what Ms. Butler was speaking to is the fact that let's look at our 4-year college attendance rate, and we look at the percentages by race. They very much mirror the percentage of that race within the student body. So our Black or African American or Hispanic American students represent approximately 35 to 38% of the overall student body at the high school. The white students represent approximately 19%. And if we were to do the mathematics on those numbers within that 4-year cohort, we would see that those percentages are largely aligned. And that's something to be proud of, right? That's something to call out. I think we must call out when we don't see inequity, as well as when we see it. And so I think that that's noteworthy, and it speaks to the great job that Mr. Moore and his leadership team, as well as the teachers and the student counselors, are doing. So Ms. Butler, we appreciate you. You can have your seat. And at this time, I'm going to give a little bit of an introduction to Dr. Pollins. Dr. Pollins, I've sort of enlisted Dr. Pollins. Dr. Pollins, having come from Hoboken School District and having served in the position of the Director of Diversity and Equity in that school district, brings a wealth of experience. She's also very active in a number of different professional associations within the state, is very well networked within that space, so brings a lot of expertise. And so I thought she was the perfect person to partner with me on our equity work. And so she's been working with me on our equity audit. I'm going to, I do a lot of talking. So when I get to have team members here joining us, I love to, have them come up and speak to the work we're doing. So Dr. Pollins, if you'd be so kind.
Good evening, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to spend some time with you today. As Dr. Cascone said, I've been working in collaboration with him regarding the equity work within our district, starting with the district equity audit. We are working in partnership with Hanover Research to identify disparities within the lived experiences of the students in West Orange. And here you can see the research questions that touch on academics, behavior, assessment participation, and enrollment, along with determining where there are decreases and increases in disparities. So Hanover is working in collaboration with us to get a little bit of the lay of the land, if you will. So as Dr. Cascone mentioned earlier, the survey closed today. It was relaunched. Originally, the survey was dispersed in the spring, and we had 2,241 people respond. We wanted to garner more participation, so we relaunched the survey. It launched a couple weeks ago, closed today, and as of today, we had roughly 2,603 people respond. And as you can see here, we have participation from our students, parents, and various staff members within the district. So in our partnership with Hanover, we are creating an equity scorecard data dashboard that will display data, student data over some time. So we are providing them with information in regards to student enrollment and demographics, state and benchmark assessments and discipline, course enrollment and performance, as well as information from the National Student Clearinghouse. They will take this information provided by us and they will then use that information to create the data and equity dashboard. So marrying the survey data that we received along with the student data is going to give us the opportunity to allow us to make comparisons across subgroups for decision-making purposes. And it'll also give us the opportunity to quickly assess where we are doing well in the space of equity and where we would need to improve. So this is just a sample of what the data dashboard would look like, and it would be inclusive of interactive tabs that will allow us to filter a specific school by a specific school or school year, and then drill down into specific subsets of data in regards to race or our English language learners and socioeconomic status of our students. So once the audit process is concluded and we have our data dashboard and our equity scorecard completed, we're going to come back and we're going to engage in a conversation and presentation in January. And the information that we receive will also be used to fuel our strategic planning process, will also be embedded in our goals for professional development, in our achievement goals within the district. And also we're looking to reestablish a committee in the space of diversity and equity and inclusion so that everybody feels like they belong. And Dr. Cascone and I have also been working together and having conversations about, beyond the goal setting, how do we curate experiences for our student body and our school community at large that everybody can participate in. So outside of just looking at where we are, where we need to go, and how we're doing, but how do we create an experience for everybody while they're here in West Orange? Mhm.
It's on wheels now. Much easier to move. Is this somebody's paper copy?
Okay,
Anything else?
oops. Everybody's okay? Good, good, good. Okay, I'll just start by saying, you know, how thrilled I am, but I'll have a chance to say more than I'm thrilled. So let's start with our liaisons. Do you have questions, comments?
Yeah. So I have one question for the gentleman that presented the first presentation. I know he mentioned he was working on expanding the amount of career opportunities and postgraduate opportunities. But I was wondering, like, is there a way he's like making this information more available to the parents of the student body to make it known that like opportunities like this are available for their kids? Or is it something like only the students have access to in terms of information?
I could probably take it, yeah. And then I think after this, then we may bring you up and have you plant you up there at the podium for the, so right now, it's a great question. I think right now, it's really in sort of the research development phase. I think once it's sort of fully baked, if you will, would be when it sort of transitions to, advertising and promoting. And the way we typically do that is that a course, if you will, or program would be reflected in the course offering book and would be discussed with counselors. But I do think your question points to something important, which is really prioritizing this, right? Really showcasing this program and letting letting community members, families understand that we're really trying to create this program where we're bringing our students back to be educators in this district. So while yes, it would be shared, I think we can do more to really showcase and create buzz, if you will, around the program. Did I answer?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have no questions.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Huerta.
Thank you. That was a great presentation, Dr. Resvignani. I just had a couple of comments and things that kind of resonated with me is the growing population of the Latino community. We are the global majority, and so we are one of the fastest growing populations in the globe. And so I think this is just a great visual of what's actually going on and how we're addressing that. I had a couple of questions on a little bit going off of the student liaisons. Once we make these programs available to our students, and when we're making them making our parents aware of them for their students, are we taking into account the language justice that goes along with that, making it available in multiple languages, and then also making it available through different avenues, not just through like a Google Doc, because there's families that don't have access to or might not be tech savvy on filling out those type of applications. And one of the other questions was this audit or the survey available to parents in a paper form?
I can. You want to hit it first, and then I'll clean it up.
Yeah, I would just echo what Dr. Cascone had shared earlier, that it's very much in the research and development and phase. And as we begin to solidify some of these offerings, yes, I think everything should be on the table, everything explored with any college or university that we end up partnering with. Should we make a recommendation to the superintendent and ultimately to the board, would be to explore all those barriers. So this is good. This is good, both good points and good information for us, as we continue to explore these options. In regard to the survey?
Yeah. So great questions. I mean, we do, as you've probably noticed, we are now putting out virtually all of certainly our district level communication in both Spanish and Haitian Creole. The survey was available in both those languages. It was not available in paper. And with any research, there's always limitations, delimitations associated with the research. And, I would suggest that, the absence of a paper copy is a limitation of this data set, which needs to be taken into consideration when we're looking at the findings, right? I think something Dr. Pollan said, which I think is really important, is that this is sort of the lay of the land. It's not it's the beginning, but certainly not the end to our process of continuing to gather information. And so what this will do is this will help inform subsequent mechanisms for gathering feedback, which are likely to be far more qualitative in nature, whether that be through PTA meetings, focus groups, strategic planning sessions. But you're right, there's part of what we're trying to accomplish through Mr. Plata and the the Bilingual Parent Advisory Committee through Mr. Cano, our Spanish bilingual parent liaison, is to try and build a capacity, awareness and capacity for self-advocacy. That's really the end game. And that's what we're working on. But you're absolutely right. It is certainly a limitation that any parent that did not necessarily have access to a computer or the wherewithal to engage in that survey digitally, was not considered in the data, which is a limitation for certain.
Thank you. When you mentioned the educational leadership program for FDU, you mentioned that it was a refresh on social justice. I know Dr. Collins is coming from that program. Is that what you said? I'm sorry. I don't know if I confused something, but the social justice piece, I think, is really important to make the connection for our parents who are immigrant parents, because they don't have the education of American history. So you're coming from a foreign country, coming into a new country that doesn't function anything like they've ever been in. And it's really important in that area of awareness and capacity to advocate, because they're unfamiliar with that whole landscape of advocating. This is something I think is really important because that language barrier is there as well. So the comfort isn't there, the experience is new. And so there's a compounding of effects that's happening in particular communities. And I've seen the children definitely get it, I think, at a very early age and a very young age. So I just think that that's a really important piece for how our teachers are able to relate to that. I don't believe I have any more questions or comments, but it was a great presentation and I'm looking forward to the results and the work that's going to come out of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Huerta. Mrs. Merklinger.
Definitely a lot of information, a lot of great information here. So thank you for everyone for putting this together, Dr. Joe, Dr. Collins, Ms. Butler. Just a few questions. I think it's really great that we're seeing a lot of, we were at the board conference last week, 2 weeks ago, last week. And for myself, I didn't find it as useful as actually this presentation, because I think this is really walking the talk. We've said a lot about equity, diversity, and inclusion. And it seems like we're really starting to get those gears in motion, right? We've been talking about it and really seeing some of the work start picking up ground now. So this is really great to see. One of the questions, or one of the things I think folks probably noticed is the just, some of the percentages looking, we're trying to get our staff to look more like our student body, right? We've done that with coaching, we've done that across faculty in other areas and arenas. I'm wondering, does the fact that we have a lot of our certificated staff is also tenured, does that play and factor into it? Like, as there's not a lot of openings, would that be a fair statement, or is that factoring into it?
Thank you for that question. I think, what I would share in this, in that with the percentages that we've seen with our new hires, we know that there is a significant amount of resignations and retirements currently, not unique to West Orange, but within the profession, right? So I would say, from my take on it is that I think the percentages that have been shared in regard to our new hires, I would say is pretty remarkable, because there are some vacancies that we don't have any applicants for. And we repost and then we, as the board has approved on many occasions, staff have been great. They've taken on a 6-class assignment. We understand that that's a lot more work for them. So, I would say, in regard to the fact that we have, tenured staff member, I think we're also starting to see, a lot of individuals, move on from the profession, albeit through resignations or retirement, therefore opening the opportunity and vacancies for new hires.
Yeah. I know a lot of, I've always said this about Western High School. It's like a small community college where you have so many opportunities, so many fields to venture into. What are some of the thoughts on getting students to see the education world as a viable career opportunity versus becoming a lawyer, becoming a doctor? Those are a lot of the professions that we hear students being pushed towards. And they kind of have, in some areas, are monetarily more significant for some students. What are we doing to draw students into the education? I mean, obviously the program, but what's the draw for students, or what are we doing to kind of help them understand that education is just as valuable as the profession to be in?
Thank you. So in working with, potential partners, Montclair State being one of them, and, in those conversations, and as I highlighted, they're having difficulty at that level to attract candidates in general, but candidates representing diverse backgrounds to enter the profession, which is why I feel it's so important. And in all of those, the slide with the bulleted list of the trainings that I've attended, and we had the one from the Kane Diversity Council that the district is a member of, and we had many staff members participate in that training. In all of those, the takeaway has been the need to develop a homegrown recruitment effort, that is the pathway to diversify your candidate pool and ultimately workforce. So as we develop and foster these partnerships and ultimately arrive at a conclusion to recommend to Dr. Cascone and ultimately to the board, the idea then is to heavily promote that. And even with our existing program, I had shared, I think it's a missed opportunity for as a recruiting mechanism. And that's where I come in my role. I want to get some face time with the students involved in that program, highlight the wonderful areas within the profession, and also to provide them with guidance as to how to move towards the certification process and employment, albeit through substituting, serving as a paraprofessional, teacher assistant, so on and so forth.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And just two more comments than questions, but I just want to thank Ms. Butler. She's been sending out all these emails about wellness and mindfulness, and a lot of resources for our students and our faculty. So really focusing on the SEL that we've been promoting and talking about all this time. So I want to just thank you for that. It means a lot to me personally. So I appreciate that. I hope folks will really tap into those resources and check out some of those articles and courses that you've put out there for folks. And just in terms of, I know we're doing the equity audit and we're looking at it. I just want to be careful about saying creating an experience, because we do have an experience here in West Orange schools. And I think it's one that we promote. Those of us that have come through the West Orange school system are very proud of that. So I just want to be careful about saying creating an experience when a lot of students already, like Melinda and myself, already have had that experience. So just to be careful of that. But definitely look for ways to always improve, right, on the experience. But
I just wanted to clarify, I meant as experiences, we're working to create events in regards to the experience, not that we're taking away from experiences that students may have.
understood.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. That was it.
Thank you, Ms. Merklinger. And I forgot to announce those that are joining us from home through live stream. It's not being monitored, and there is no one to respond to anyone who's attempting to chat with us this evening. But we're so happy that you are joining us. Mr. Rothstein.
Thank you. All right, I'll try to do this rapid fire, I think. First of all, with the list of outreach, partnerships, and career fairs, I was just curious, is there the organizations that are listed, are they particularly known as good places to go for specifically recruiting diverse candidates? Or is there some sort of a filter or lens that we look toward when we're looking for new places to go for recruitment in that respect?
Thank you. So certainly the partnership with NEMNET exposes the district to additional resources at not just the local level, but at the national level as well. again, we're able to post all of our vacancies on their website. And we actually HR receives emails for linked potential candidates. So what I've been doing is I've been reaching out directly to those kind of partnered up pairings to just highlight a little bit about the district, indicate that it's a great place to work, and share a little bit about the vacancy itself. So it's just an additional layer that that's allow us. Certainly with CJ Pride, this is a consortium again of 55 school districts, and this has been in existence for well over a decade at this point. In fact, I believe it started with 7 districts and now has grown. It was primarily based in central Jersey, but now there are some northern and even southern districts involved. That partnership again helps us gain access to that diversity career fair, and they're well known throughout the state as an organization presenting at various seminars and workshops. So that is certainly great exposure for West Orange to partner and be a participating member of that group. In regard to the program at FDU, again, a bit of a refresh within that overall program in regard to social justice leadership. So as we're also looking to do a homegrown program for our current high school students, this also enables us to tap into our current staff members who are interested in pursuing a certification either as a supervisor and or as a principal. And then in regard to the colleges and universities listed there, certainly participating in various career fairs is a great way for the district to not only be represented, but also just tap into, basically not put all the eggs in one basket in just one career fair each year, but have exposure at the various college and career fairs and try to think outside of the box, as I indicated with the virtual career fair at NJIT.
Got it. Thank you. Also, I really appreciate that you put, a couple of quotes of how we describe our district and what we're looking for in terms of candidates. And I hope I won't put you on the spot for it right now, but I would love to hear if there's any sort of anecdotal feedback that you get from candidates about, does that weigh in on decisions that they make? Is that, oh yeah, if you have a reply now, that's great.
I'm here to be put on the spot. No problem. So yes, in my conversations, again, in every final interview before I speak with Dr. Cascone about making a recommendation to the board and having the final approval for salary and ultimately the offer of employment, when I engage in that conversation about that question and provide an example, the feedback, I would say a high percentage of the time as we talk about that, they are appreciative that is a listed question, because they know that typically when they're applying to different districts, it really stands out because you can cut and paste your response to the generic question that is part of that application process. And when you come across this one, it's like, wait a minute, this is different. And maybe in some cases, I have to now answer the question rather than cut and paste. But it allows them again to think critically, and I think it represents the district very well because they're seeing that again we're distinguishing ourselves from the 70% of other districts that utilize this application process. So that was a very long-winded way of saying yes. I think the information that I've seen and received and the feedback from candidates as we engage in that conversation has been definitely positive.
That's great. Yeah, I really appreciated seeing it there. I think it's so important to let candidates know we're striving to be a district that is welcoming and we recognize the value, and this is the direction we want to go. Just let people know from the outset that this is what we want. Also, just by way of comment on the human capital management system, I know one of the things that sort of gnaws at me, and I'm just planting this as a worm in the ear of all of the members of the board up here, the retention area. I know there's a role that we play in that as well, and something that I think is going to weigh heavily on us in the upcoming months. And I think that it's good for that to be a part of the conversation and on all of our minds as we move forward into the budget process. Love that you're doing the 30, 60, 90-day check-ins. We do that where I work as well. And it's surprising how helpful it is. The things that people will share and what a difference it can make organizationally toward getting good ideas and recommendations for improvements. And I hope it's working here as well. And thank you for the follow-up on the disaggregated data. I appreciate that. The new hires, the percentages were certainly, great to see. Do you know offhand what the overall number of new hires was?
Not offhand, I would want to, confirm that exact number and then provide it to the board as a whole.
Okay, great. Ballpark, or come back with a more specific number later?
Yeah, I would say ballpark 70.
Okay. Oh, 70, that many. That's great. I mean, to me, that sounds like a pretty high number to substantiate the percentages. So that's great news. I had a question for Mrs. Butler. With regards to the various reasons that students gave, struggling moving on into their next steps after school here. Were we able to provide those students with any particular kind of support? Do we expect similar issues for students in this upcoming year? And is there something that we can be doing beyond what we're already doing to help them cope with those issues?
I would say that for the cohort 2021, we did provide them with that social, emotional, mental health support that they may need in transitioning to that particular post-secondary plan, be it the college or university, some employment, some in the military. So we did provide that support to them as well. The students this year, the seniors, any students who may have they're reluctant, I should say, to going on to that particular college or university or post-secondary plan, just providing them with the support that they need. We have networked with various colleges or universities also that our students are transitioning to see what supports they have in place to kind of connect the students with those supports that are there, and just to reassure them that there is support there for each and every one of them.
That's good. Yeah, I was wondering if we get, like, if we reached out for this kind of feedback again this year, do we get it early enough to actually to be able to be a support, like proactively, before they're making those decisions?
Some of the concerns that we had for the cohort 2021, we have those same concerns with this class, even though it's, this year it's a little bit different. So we are addressing or anticipating those concerns and addressing them as needed. And like I said, a lot of times, we are networking with various colleges and universities to kind of help the students understand what that transition will look like, and to also help them bridge that gap that may exist.
Great. I actually didn't totally understand the slide on the four-year graduation cohort 2021, the graduation rate.
The first slide.
Yeah, so 90, the 91.5 number.
What happens is that we submit information to the state, the NJ Smart, through NJ Smart. That information, the state calculates that information and provides us with that feedback based on the information that is provided. So currently the cohort 2021, based on the information that they had from us in June of 2021, when our students graduated, it's like 2 weeks after that, around mid-July, we submit information to the state as it relates to the number of students who graduated at that time, their post-secondary plans. We provide that information to them. And this is that preliminary report, the graduation rate 91.5. It does not include students that are attending summer school. We have an opportunity to update the information also. If we have a student who said to us in June that they were going to a community college, but now have made the decision to go to a four-year college or university, we can change that or add that data to our report. So that information comes back at the end of November, because it's going to be based on the students who graduated in or completed summer school, I should say. And any students that we go through the appeal process, they're going to now be included in that final report. Does that help? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess mostly I was wondering if this is the number that we use as what our graduation rate is, or
It
it's
will be the number that we use as our graduation rate
after we get the,
when the final report is out, and that's, like I said, it's usually on or about the end of November. So
Got it.
November 30th. So yes, that will be. This is
thank
the
you.
projected rate based on the information that we provided to them the end of June. Well, the statistics then.
Thank you. And then just one for Dr. Pollins. With regards to the the number of people who responded to the equity survey. The number seems small to me, but I don't do this kind of work. So does it seem small? And if it does, is it large enough still to do the work that we want to do with it? And then finally, if it is small, any ideas on how we can improve next time around?
So we did want as much participation as possible. That's why Dr. Cascone wanted to relaunch the survey in October. So we did get a few more people to participate. I do think that even with the sampling size, it gives us an idea of what we need to do in the district, and gives us a good idea of where we are in regards to how people are feeling in the district and their experiences, whether they be an administrator, a teacher, or a student. I know we would love 100% participation, but in relaunching the survey, this is where we landed. But I believe it'll give us an idea, if not a snapshot, of what's happening, so we understand how to move forward.
And do we know when we're going to do this survey again, or is that we haven't talked about that yet?
There wouldn't be another administration of the survey for this particular go around. Now, is that on? Just thing. Whether that could potentially be something that's built into the strategic plan. In other words, that we're periodically conducting benchmark surveying, could be. There's no plan to re-administer the survey, at least in the near future.
Okay, great. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rothstein and Vice President Tony Cliff.
Thank you, President Trigg-Scales. And thank you to Dr. Vespignani, Dr. Pollins, and Ms. Butler. Appreciate all the information. I wanted to ask a little bit more about the Homegrown Tomorrow Teachers Program. I believe you said we only had one hire. That was for this year, correct? Is there data from the past that you might have about how many people have been hired from this program?
So the data that I've received from Ms. Mullen indicated that overall, since 2013, there have been 89 students who have participated in that program, and the board has gone on to employ one.
So since 2013.
That's correct.
Is there an expenditure with this program for us?
I believe it's funded through grants and with the rider MOA.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, what was it? Grants, okay.
I believe it's through Perkins. I'll double check.
Okay, Perkins. Okay, and then I know as part of what I think all of this is fantastic, and I think you've made some real strides this year in bringing in some new streams for hiring. The one thing I know I had asked last year and I didn't see on the report was about our pipeline of substitutes, and we had talked about maybe tracking that at some point. I know you've taken on quite a bit this year, so but I just wondered if that's in the plans at some point.
So I believe it was also in relation to student teacher tracking. Correct?
Yes,
Right.
yes.
So yes, so recently HR has absorbed student teaching placements.
Okay.
I placed myself prominently in that, where I am now interviewing all requested placements. So in other words,
Oh, great.
in some cases, we receive a direct request from an individual looking to conduct an internship or student teaching experience here. In some cases, they know a staff member that maybe they'd like to be partnered with. But I recently created and disseminated a new workflow for all administrators, supervisors, principals, in the event that they do receive one of these requests, and or when we receive requests for one of our partnering colleges or universities. Now, when they submit that request, I personally contact the student teacher or intern just to make sure that this is an
Yeah.
appropriate placement, learn a little bit about what they're seeking. Also then, and to the point that you had raised, to determine what their certification is. So that would then serve as a recruiting mechanism so that we can track. And part of the process that I've shared with our administrative team is at the end of the internship or student teaching, that I'd like to engage in a conversation with that administrator where that placement occurred,
Mhm.
so that then I can learn if this is an individual who who performed well,
Right.
someone that they would ultimately recommend to participate in interview research. So yes, we are now tracking. Again, I've placed myself in a position where I have my finger on the pulse of the placements, and now we see on each board agenda that lives in the personnel section as well.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Vice President Tunnicliffe, I just want, if I may, I just want Dr. Vespignani to add one thing. You go through, I think it's worth noting that you go through a similar process with every substitute teacher, paraprofessional that we appoint. You interview with them directly. You want to talk a little bit about some of those, how you approach those interviews and conversations?
Yeah, I would say not all districts participate in an interview with subs. As we know, there is a significant sub shortage, throughout the state. Perhaps, yes, thank you. There's a significant sub shortage throughout the state, but I have been conducting interviews with those who have applied to be a sub in the district, and engage them in a conversation, learn if they are pursuing a career in education, provide guidance on that, and it also is an opportunity to track and lend some
Great.
support to those individuals. And the same would be the case for paraprofessionals as well.
Oh, terrific. Thank you.
And I'm
Appreciate that.
convinced there's more than one of him, because I don't know how he gets it all done.
I
at the end of the day.
Thank you.
No, there's a lot. Let's see, let me just make sure I have that. And then the other side. And I did want to just comment that I was pleased to see, that we did have that our largest group filling out the survey was our students, which I think that is fantastic. So I was really excited to see that number. The other thing I wanted to talk about was in the post-secondary plans. So these might be directed to Ms. Butler. I noticed that, given COVID and the last couple of years, and I noticed that there's no apprenticeship program. There's no students going to any apprenticeship programs. And I wanted to understand what we do about that, and if there are programs that we work with regularly, and how students find out about those.
I can say the one apprenticeship program that our students participate or have had an opportunity to participate in. I can't think of the name of it right now, but it's for construction management or in the construction field. And last year, no, 2 years ago, we had 3 students who did go through the apprenticeship program. But this past year, we did not. We did not. And
So-
that's probably the only program, that is the only program, apprenticeship program, that we encourage our students or have our students participate, be a part of.
Is that because it's the only one that's out there that has a structured program, or are there other ones? Is it just something that we're not looking at?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
Mhm.
Because I do think,
Yeah.
I look at this and we have so many great colleges that our students are going to, but I know not every student is college bound or wants to be. And I know some of those students also aren't, really keen on going into the military. So I want to be able to be sure that we are, when we talk about college and career readiness, that we are providing opportunities for students who do not want to take a 2-year or 4-year college path, that we are looking into some other options for those students.
I would say for those students, we do, there are various programs at the community college levels. We have at Morris County Community College, they have the culinary arts program. And also at Essex County College at West Caldwell, there are a couple programs that they do have. Also, they're not considered apprenticeship programs, but they are programs that help, that we encourage students as such to attend or to, participate in. Also with the different trade schools, many of the students, students who may not be interested in the 2-year college or the 4-year college, the various trade schools, they are encouraged to participate in or take part in also.
So where does that show up if they're going to a trade school in this post-secondary plan page?
And the post-secondary, it's the career education.
Career education, okay. So those are trade schools.
Career education or the trade schools.
Okay. And then one other question on this is that I noticed that you have other and then undecided no plans or a year off. And I just kind of wanted to understand those categories a little bit better. And I know some students want to take a gap year, and is that considered the year off?
The year
or is
off,
that, because some
yeah.
of the gap year programs are actually very, they can get college credits for them and different things. So it's not a traditional, they're not doing anything. So I feel like that's a little bit of a misrepresentation.
Right,
in
the year
terms of-
off is considered that gap year.
Yeah.
Those were two of our students who were not really sure what they were going to do. Both of those students were, their families were in another country, and they were thinking about returning to their country rather than continuing employment or college or continuing their education here. So that's what the year off.
Okay.
Trying to, figure that out or make that happen. When we speak of other schools or others, we have students who are in our 18 to 21 program.
Great.
And those other schools,
So
other
that's,
programs.
okay, great.
And then the other one was unknown. Those 5 students were students that we did not identify as going any place or doing anything at this time. 2 of those students attended summer school programs.
Okay.
So those.
Okay. Well, it's amazing you got it down to that granularity actually with as many students that come out of the school every year. So, and I think that's all for my question. Oh, wait, maybe there's one more tab here. Hang on. Nope, I already went through that. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Vice President Tunnicliffe. I also want to commend Dr. V and Dr. Collins and Mrs. Butler and Dr. Cascone, of course, for providing the board and the community with this update on diversity and equity. And I want to preface everything that I say with we're making great progress. And you said it best, Dr. V, this is a beginning. Dr. Cascone has been with us for 2 years and a bit. Dr. Vespignani, you far less, and Dr. Collins, even less. So we're firing on all cylinders. So I just want to say that as I ask some other questions. Just wanted to clarify, are we still the diversity fair or have we changed that to career fair? Dr. V.
When we promoted, it was listed as a diversity fair.
Okay, I
Yeah.
just want to be sure because that was an initiative of a board a few years back, so I don't want to lose that flavor.
We
Okay.
haven't.
Okay, great. Alternate route. How are we going after folks who might be considering a career change, who may have never even thought about it? How are we tapping that as a resource? There are a lot of unhappy people in other jobs who would be so delighted to become educators.
Thank you. A few things come to mind. One, with our recent outreach in regard to the substitute shortage, that would certainly be a good first step for those individuals to get their feet wet in regard to the profession. And again, as I'd indicated in response to Vice President Tunnicliffe's question, as I'm interviewing substitutes who may be interested in pursuing a career in education, I offer HR services to support them towards that certification process. Another example, one that comes to mind, we recently posted, not in the education section of NJ.com. We posted in the medical section in regard to registered nurses, knowing, and to your point, many of those individuals may recently no longer be employed or be placed on leave due to vaccination status. So there's an opportunity there to maybe pursue some of those individuals who would be interested in the field of nursing, because as we know, there's a significant shortage for school certified nurses. So we're trying to promote by way of advertising and tap into some of those other resources. Another example would be partnering with colleges and universities who typically don't have schools of education. NJIT would be one of them, to provide services through their career services that offer the appropriate steps and pathway towards alternate route. All that being said, I think this is an area that we certainly would want to expand upon and continue to think outside the box in ways
Good.
to attract alternate route candidates.
Good, great, great. And everyone is vying for candidates of color right now. All school districts. So the pool is being spread very thin. So we have to keep that in mind too. I applaud you for changing the language so that it looks like we are very engaging and inviting and welcoming. So I'm sure that is helping a great deal. Let's see what else I have here. You mentioned the second-year teachers. The emphasis is on the first-year teachers, but if you could just tell me again what you do with the second-year teachers.
Yeah, so the state regulations in regard to mentoring indicate that during the first year,
Right.
districts are required to provide
Right.
30 weeks or 34 weeks, depending on the level of certification. Either an individual comes through an alternate route program or the traditional school of
Right.
education. However, I think there's a missed opportunity and a gap. In other words, there are many professions, if we think of the medical field, who provide ongoing mentoring throughout multiple years and layered levels of support. So the district has a new staff orientation that is 2 years, and in the second year, those staff members are also pursuing various courses, all things related to Google. So we focus on Google Sheets, Excel, things of that nature, to provide technological professional development that they may not normally receive. And I think many districts miss out on this as well, to provide additional support in that second year. I would also add, and not listed in the PowerPoint, is that each school, per state regulations, is required to have a school improvement panel. And part of the oversight of the commonly referred to as a SCIP, some people refer to it as a SIP, the school improvement panel has oversight of and kind of a checks and balances with the principal in regard to professional development, new teacher support, and areas related to that. Just speaking to my own experience as a school principal, the school improvement panel serves as an additional resource for novice teachers, not just in their first year. And I've shared with our administrative team some of the best practices. There's a document from the state in regard to the benefits and moving from compliance to best practice that school improvement panels may be able to do. So just thinking about how we are laying our support, not just in the first year, but in the second year and ideally in the third year, I think is a good initial step by the district.
Great, great. That's really important because we tend to give so much support to that first year, thinking that they've got their wings and they're ready to fly, and they still need some wind beneath those wings. So that's great. You shared the 2021 staff data by school, and that's where I'm most concerned. Because I think it happens all too often that a student can go through K through 12 here in West Orange and never have a teacher of color. And so when I look at some of the schools where they have not one African-American certificated staff member, that's not concerning. That's alarming. That's alarming. Central office, under your leadership and under Dr. Cascone's leadership, you're doing a lot. You're banging it out. You're pulling in all the resources, seeking out resources, but something is happening or not happening once we get out of central office, because the hiring is done by the principals, correct? The recommendations, the interviews.
The recommendations are coming from.
The
in
principals
some
are-
cases in partnership with supervisors, and that's correct. They-
Okay,
they essentially-
they're making the decisions as to who will be interviewed. Is that correct?
That's correct. They're moving candidates forward in part of the process.
Okay. So there I'm concerned. And I do hope that as we're moving forward, looking forward, we're paying attention to that process, because I think you're doing everything you can do at your level to increase the pool. So the pool is there, but what's happening with the pool is, and I'm not posing it as a question, I'm just saying, as you look forward, that has got to be a priority. Dr. Cascone.
Yeah, no, great points. And I think there are two additional things that we can do as central office. And Dr. Vespignani mentioned one in his presentation. And one is understanding the degree to which the diverse candidates are actually making it into the processes, right? So, if we do have a fifth grade opening, how many candidates applied, how many candidates were brought in, and of that group of candidates that were brought in, what percentage were diverse candidates? And then take it a step further and say, okay, so if we had 12 candidates, 3 were diverse candidates, none of the 3 were actually moved up as a finalist, trying to understand why, right? What were the factors insofar as the search chair persons were concerned that, that led them to not select those candidates to move up. So I think it's in putting in systems that help us understand all these great things that Dr. Vespignani is doing. Are they contributing to an increased number of diverse candidates that make it into the processes, 1, and 2, once they're there, what factors are leading them not to be recommended up if in fact they're not? So I think those are 2 additional things, and we've been talking about it in terms of putting those systems in place. We can do that, and then that'll help us understand to a greater extent what we are hypothesizing is in fact happening, right?
Thank you, Dr. B. Thank you, Dr.
you.
C. All right, Mrs. Butler, I just have a couple of questions for you. And thanks again. I'm a big proponent of longitudinal data. I like to see where we've been. And so, I hope going forward again, that we're looking at graduation rates over time. I remember Mr. Moore standing in this very room, so excited, announcing 2 years ago, I think, about 96%. Did that sound about right to you?
Give or take, yes.
Yes. And so it would be wonderful for the board to be able to see, a 5-year view back, progress that the district is making, and then knowing that if there's a dip, that there's a reason for it. Well, it was a pandemic. But I think that's very helpful. On the post-secondary plans, you mentioned the other schools for 18 to 21-year-old students. I'd love to see special needs students. Does the state give us that kind of data? How many of our special needs students went on to post-secondary schools? So maybe at some point, the board would be interested in that. And then on the next page, the class of 2021 post-secondary plans, ethnic racial identity. The numbers look very good. I'd love to see percentages,
Okay.
since we know that there's a higher percentage of students of color.
Mhm.
So just looking at the raw numbers doesn't give us as much information as I think the percentages might offer. But thank you for all of that hard work and getting that together for us. And that's it. Thank
All right.
you. And Dr. Pollins, let's see, do I have anything for you? Just under student data, course enrollment and performance. I'll just pose it as a question and an answer to speed up time. Under there, are we looking for gifted students, number of gifted students by ethnicity, AP,
Yes.
special ed? We would be looking at our Mountaineer Academy, all of those kinds of,
All of those things fall
all
under
of
there.
those things, basic skills, great,
Yes.
fabulous. And I think that might be it. The scorecard dashboard is going to be incredibly helpful, incredibly helpful. All right, so I think that's it. And now we're up to board reports. Oh, I'm sorry, did I miss something?
Yes, Mr. Scales.
Oh, the
President
HIB,
Scales.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to distribute these. If you just take one and pass it.
Thank you.
So over the course of, since the last board meeting on 10/18, we have had 7 allegations of HIB. 5 of the 7 were found to be found not to be instances of HIB as defined by the statute and the board policy. We did have 2 confirmed cases of HIB. You can see one, actually both were at Roosevelt School. And I have reviewed the executive summaries of all of these cases and discussed them, in fact, with Ms. Butler, the district anti-bullying coordinator. In fact, I should note that I did have some follow-up questions with regard to several of them, one of which ultimately was actually changed from not founded to founded based upon some additional questions I had. So I only mention that because, just to let the board know that I am looking critically at the executive summaries and cross-referencing those with the criteria and the statute and the policy. And from time to time, I do get one that ultimately gets kicked back and gets changed to a different disposition. So I'm admitting these as a report for the board. This is not an affirmation of my disposition and the disposition of the investigations, but rather simply admitting the report into the record. At the subsequent Board of Education meeting, provided that you were looking to affirm or we had not gotten an appeal for a board hearing, they would be on the November 22nd board meeting for approval by the board.
Thank you, Dr. Cascone. And now board reports. Ms. Huerta.
I'm sorry, we're taking a vote? Or? Are we-
Not now.
Okay. Oh, board reports, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that part. So yes, I would just like to report that Essex County School Board will be having a meeting on November 10th, where our recently newly re-elected Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver will be in attendance and speaking. And also our very own Mara Baker was fabulous with the keynote speech that she did for the workshop. What she was actually invited to speak as well at the Essex County School Board meeting. And so if you haven't registered, please do so if you're available. It's going to be at the, what is it? I'm sorry, I forgot to write down the location.
Glen Ridge Country Club.
Yes, thank you, President Terry Skills. And one thing I did want to point out that Maura Baker mentioned, one of the big takeaways that I took from her keynote was to drop the culture of shame. She is a student who has a learning difference, and she spoke about self-advocacy and about dropping the culture of shame. And I think that really resonated with me. I was actually able to attend an honorary event yesterday evening at Seton Hall University. It was an honorary doctorate awarded to Brian Stevensons, who is the founder of the Equal Justice Initiative. And he's the author of Just Mercy, which is now a movie. And it was just really, it really resonated with me, Maura's message of dropping the shame. And Brian Stevenson, in his talk, the big takeaway for me was the reason that he does what he does with Equal Justice Initiative is not because, or not just because it's a good thing to do or the right thing to do, but because he is also broken. And so I feel like that really resonated with me. And those are just big takeaways and commonalities that I found throughout the whole workshop and everything that we're doing as a district. And so thank you, all of you, for your hard work and your dedication and the commitment to bringing that to fruition. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Huerta. Ms. Merklinger?
I'll be really brief. Policy work, I know Gary will probably speak to. That's in works with Strauss Esme. The PR committee, we need to have a follow-up meeting. So I know that's on our to-do list, as well as town council liaison meeting. So more to come at our next meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Merklinger. Mr. Rothstein?
Yes, briefly on policy, which we thought we thought was all but wrapped up at this point. But heads up to the board, we'll have some more policies coming back to us. It turns out that there were some updates to, I think it was about 20, I didn't write the number, give or take, about 20 policies that have been updated since we, while we were in the process this last year of updating our policy book. And so those will come back to us. I believe that they were all in the mandated category. And so it'll hopefully be a somewhat easy review compared to the overall ordeal that we went through. And then also that we're expecting to see our online catalog of policies made available to the public online this year. And so very, very excited to see that come to fruition.
And Mr. Rothstein, some are just word changes in the policies that we're taking a look at as well. So it's not that.
Yeah, as in like
Yeah,
a
it's
simple word change. Yeah,
nuances. You know,
exactly.
I
Yeah.
don't want people to think that we celebrated at the last board meeting now.
No, thank you for clarifying. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and I should also say,
Simple things, and because it took us quite a while to
Some-
do this, things have changed. So we just have to catch up.
absolutely. And I meant to say also that this is to be expected. This is going to be an ongoing process. Year after year, there will always be policies that are getting updated and changes that are brought forward. And it's a significant part of the work of the board to review those changes and to adopt them or, edit them and or adopt them as we see fit.
Thank you. Vice President Tunny.
So I wanted to, Dr. Vespignani alluded to it as in his presentation. And the one thing I did want to say that came out of the legislative this within the last couple of weeks is that they have approved the ability for college students who have 30 credits or more to be able to apply to be a substitute teacher. So that's really important during these times when all school districts are struggling for talent and wanting to get some substitutes and needing substitutes. So I think that was a great decision on the part of our legislature. So we appreciate them doing that and helping us out with that. So that's really all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a few things, but I'll save some of them for later, but I did just want to mention there is a new bill, S4021, the Make Us Visible bill, regarding the AAPI curriculum bill, Asian Pacific Islander curriculum, and it's in the Senate right now. It's at the Senate Education Committee. And it has to then go to the Assembly Education Committee, and then it has to be voted upon at the General Assembly and the General Senate meetings. And I think that's very significant because then there will be a new policy for that. So just wanted to make the point that there never is an end. As far as the public relations goal, I am going to forward to Ms. Huerta and Ms. Merklinger an action plan template that New Jersey School Boards has provided us, along with the recommendations that our board came up with. I will send that to the two of you so that we can get going on that and be ready for the new year as well. Just Ms. Huerta mentioned Maura Baker and Wednesday, and we were just informed that the acting commissioner will also be in attendance. So the whole gang is going to be there. And Dr. Cascone, you can't join us.
I may see if I can
Slip out.
if I can call somebody out of the bullpen to do my parent workshop.
Yeah, that's and I want to say they're all coming out for Maura.
Yeah.
They're all coming out to salute Maura here in Essex County. So we are extremely proud of her. And again, just want to remind the public that she is the student representative for the State Board of Education, as we have our two student liaisons here. She is the one student representing the entire state and was selected by the Student Council Association in the state. So she's a big deal. She's a very big deal, and we're so happy to have her here with us. All right, and we're now moving into questions from the public on agenda items only, and we ask you to approach the podium. You will have 3 minutes. Please give your name and address. And I will look over at Mrs. Flowers now and Dr. Cascone. Do we have any Google form questions? We have none from the floor.
Just one non-agenda. Just one.
No,
just
no
one
agenda
non-
items.
yeah, just
Okay,
one
great.
non-agenda. And I'm actually, President Trick-Scales, based upon feedback previously received from a member of the community, I am going to have Ms. Flowers as board secretary read the comment verbatim.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, when we get to that.
So we'll come back to that one a little later.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so we're moving up to reports, discussions, and recommendations. Looking at personnel. Items A, 1 through 7. Attachments 2 through 8. And curriculum and instruction, attachment 9. And I will note that we have some changes for attachments 3, 4, and 5. There are corrections. And I also see we have a retirement. So I'd like to recognize and congratulate Ms. Jane Horowitz from Liberty School of Social Studies teacher there who is retiring after 16 years. So congratulations and welcome to the club where every day is Saturday. So congratulations, Miss Jane Horowitz.
President Trigg-Scales?
Yes.
If I might just, one slight qualification to the statement. There is in fact an edit to attachment 4, which was a typographical error associated with the last name of one of the advisors. The motions C and F and corresponding attachments 3 and 5. The attachments have not been edited. However, the language in the motion was edited to align the language of the motion with the actual attachment. So the attachments have not changed.
Okay, thank you. I noticed in C and F, one word was deleted and the other one word was added. So. All right, so is there a motion for personnel A and curriculum B, curriculum and instruction?
So move.
Thank you, Vice President Tunnicliff. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Huerta. Any further discussion? There being none, Mrs. Flowers, would you please do the vote for us, please?
Mrs. Huerta,
Yes.
Ms. Merklinger,
Yes, with the exception of A1 is no, and under 4B, the respective job placement for that. And then everything else, yes.
I'm sorry to
Okay,
hear
did you get that, Ms. Flowers?
let me just, if I could just repeat, you said no to A1 and 4B?
4B, but specifically just the one that corresponds with that position.
That would be the contact
Yes,
tracing
Yep.
specialist. Yes.
Thank you.
but everything else is yes.
Mr. Rothstein,
Yes.
Vice President Tunnicliff,
Yes.
President Trigg-Scales.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And may I have a motion for C, finance, A, special services, items 1 through 4, B, business office, items 1 through 13, and attachments 10 through 16. And I see on page 11, we have donors. Miss Susan Maccabee, she's a mask magician, right? I was trying to think of another M. Another 175 fast mace. It must be late. Face masks valued at $2 each, totaling a total donation of $350. So thank you so much. And to RJW Barnabas, 100 backpacks and supplies valued at $35 each, totaling $3,500. So thank you to both of our donors so very, very much. So is there a motion for finance, A, special services, and B, business office?
I'll motion.
Thank you, Ms. Huerta. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Merklinger. Any discussion? There being none, Mrs. Flowers, please.
Mrs. Huerta,
Yes.
Ms. Merklinger,
Yes, with the exception of B, wait a minute. Yes, so it's under B, number 7. The rest are yes.
okay, Mr. Rothstein,
Yes.
Vice President Tunnicliff,
Yes.
President Trigg-Scales.
Yes.
Thank you.
And moving right along, we are up to D, reports, and that is the HIB report. Is there a motion
Yes, so moved.
to accept? Thank you, Mr. Rothstein. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Vice President Tunnicliff. And any discussion? I guess not. And Mrs. Flowers, please. Thank you.
Mrs. Huerta,
Yes.
Ms. Merkinger,
Yes.
Mr. Rothstein,
Yes.
Vice President Tunnicliff,
Yes.
President Trick Scales.
Yes.
Thank you.
And we are now up to item 11, petitions and hearings of citizens. And this can be a question or comment on any topic, agenda item or not. Anyone from the floor? No? Okay, Mrs. Flowers, would you please read what you have from the Google form?
Okay, thank you, President Trick Scales. We have one submission from Ms. Phyllis Flitt, 55 Bolin Drive. Is there a way to allow an opportunity for questions from callers or those watching online after the meeting has started? Just giving the agenda doesn't really allow for participants to fully identify, understand what is being discussed. There should be a live moderator able to receive questions throughout, almost like it was when we were fully on Zoom. Even that the form is only available between the hours of 5 p.m. on the day before or Friday prior the meeting up until 4 p.m. the day of. That doesn't leave much opportunity for people to ask questions.
Thank you. And that we just have
Just the
that
one.
one.
That completes the comments, yes.
Okay.
It's sort of like probably a little bit of shared ownership on that one.
Yes, I would say.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to start, you want me to?
And I would ask even my fellow board members if they would like to chime in, because we are fresh back from New Jersey School Boards Association workshop. And you can imagine that this was a topic of conversation in many of the venues, many of the virtual experiences. School boards across the state are doing all different kinds of engaging their publics. I think I learned that we have to be very careful. You're going to help me, Mrs. Tunnicliff, Vice President Tunnicliff, because we had a conversation about this one as to allowing questions to come in to the administration before the night of the board meeting. Am I on the right track? Yes, okay. So that's ill-advised, and that's what we're currently doing right now. We are allowing the public to post questions. And I think we were advised, not us personally, but as board members, that isn't necessarily the best route to follow. So I can imagine that the board moving forward may and needs to have some conversations about how board meetings will be run, knowing that prior to the pandemic, your only opportunity to participate in the board meeting was to come to the board meeting. We then know as we went to virtual, we increased the participation of our public because folks were able to tune in at the time that was convenient for them for as long as they wanted to in the comfort of their homes. We felt it was very important for us to come back in public once our schools opened and once we felt that our teachers and students were coming back. We felt it was extremely important for us to set an example by coming back in public. But we wanted to find a way to still engage our public. And so we added live streaming, which was not available before. You could catch the board meetings, but they were recorded. So we've made some big changes during the pandemic, but I do imagine that there will be some changes on the horizon. So any of my fellow board members, would you like to add anything that you learned at workshop?
I get to go first again.
Well, if you have something, if you'd like to, Ms. Huerta, please.
So one of the workshops that I was able to participate in talked in depth about communication strategies that worked. A lot of the things that they did recommend, we already are doing. For example, plans of contingency, proactive and timely communication. One thing that stood out to me was creating a chain of,
Is this relative to board meetings in particular?
right, so creating a
Okay.
chain of command for communication. So the Board of Ed meetings are not necessarily in nature made to be a two-way communication with the public and the board. And so creating that chain of command is going to be important in terms of PR work for us, so that we do have an opportunity for our public and our constituency to communicate with us their thoughts and ideas and questions that they have in regards to the meetings. And so, you know, one of the things that they mentioned and went a little bit in depth about it was the board meetings are to do the work of the board. So doing these agenda things and not necessarily making it a two-way conversation. So we want to be proactive and timely with our meetings so that we're not here till 1 a.m. But that's all that I have. I don't know if
Okay. Ms. Merklinger?
Yeah, one of the, I think there were just a few takeaways I had from some of the sessions that I attended was that struggle between it is the public meeting of the board. So, you know, just to reiterate what Melinda was saying, it's not a two-way street, but also finding that line of where we do want to communicate with the community what's going on and how do we best handle that with also moving into the 21st century of social media and being available and hearing the questions. And I think a lot of questions do come at the public comment section after hearing our discussion. So I think a lot of, like you're saying, the school, a lot of different districts are struggling with how do we, I guess, meet everyone's needs. But I think one of the takeaways there was just really for me was just that honing in on it's the public meeting of the board. It's really to do our work and helping the community understand that and how do we best communicate that out to the community, but still wanting to hear their questions on our agenda items and get that feedback. So how do we find other avenues? So I think in the past we were talking about town halls or forums, and so just something to consider moving forward. And also, I think there were some financial obligations that go along with live streaming. So especially for our district and with budget season coming up, being aware of our fiscal responsibility and looking at, I know everyone thinks Zoom is free, right? Understood, but there are other factors that we have to do, such as recordings and things of that nature that fall into this as well. So there are a lot of other pieces that, and maybe this is part of the transparency of communicating from the PR perspective, what are those other items that the community is maybe not aware of behind the scenes? And that's just some of the discussions that I had heard during the conversations.
Great. And realizing many boards do not respond to any of the questions that come in during the board meeting. None of the board members, the board president, superintendent doesn't respond. They record the questions. And then there is follow-up at subsequent meetings. So we're trying to do it all here. Did you have anything additional, Mr. Rothstein?
More in the area of personal opinion rather than what I've learned. But one of the terrific things over the, if you can say it, good things that came out of the pandemic and the lockdown, just in terms of participatory democracy, the huge numbers of attendees that we had at meetings was invigorating. It was exciting, and it was great to see so many people turning out. And it does really call out possibly a flaw in the system, in that there were clearly a lot of people who had an interest in the work that's being done by a board that they elect publicly. But there's a number of reasons that people can't attend meetings, whether it's childcare or any number of other obligations. I mean, I get it. All of that said, personally, I believe that there's a lot of work to be done at the meetings, and the work that's on the agenda is the work that has to be done and completed, and we have a limited amount of time to do that work and limited resources. I'm not a fan of hashing out really complicated issues in exchanges on social media or even on a platform where people are viewing and there's a question and there needs to be a quick response that isn't necessarily a well thought out one. So I think the right way to do the work is the traditional way that school boards have done the work, where people show up to meetings, and if you have an issue that you've worked through the chain of command and haven't received a satisfactory answer, this is a great place to come and raise your concerns. I will always somewhat regret that that's my position, because again, I think that more people involved is great. I'd love to see more people show up to meetings.
Thank you. Vice President Tunnicliff.
You know, I think to add to what Mr. Rothstein said, I think we all really did enjoy having so much involvement during the pandemic. And it really showed me how interested and how much people care about the schools in our district and wanting to make sure that their child gets the best education they possibly can. You know, and we have to, as a school board, meet in person. That's a New Jersey school boards. They had the special executive order during the pandemic. And once that was lifted and the students went back to school, it's incumbent upon us to be here as well to hold our meetings. So, you know, and I just wanted to remind everybody that, you know, coming out of PTA, we always said, you know, follow the chain of command in terms of when you have issues, you know, if it's with a particular staff member or a teacher, that you go to the teacher first. If that doesn't get resolved, you go to the principal. If that doesn't get resolved, then you talk to maybe the chairman of whatever course you're or the chairperson of the course. And then, you know, then if it doesn't get resolved, you rise that up to Dr. Cascone, and, you know, the last resort is sort of the board. And that's just a reminder to everybody. I know I said that a lot of times as a PTA president or the council of PTA, that was always something that we tried to instill in all of our families. And that still applies. So I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Now we'll throw it back to you, Dr. Casco.
Thank you, President Trigg Scales. I mean, ultimately, as the board has indicated, this is the board's meeting. As the superintendent, I serve at the will of the board. And so, you know, ultimately, you know, after, you know, consideration, further discussion and consideration, whatever the board's position were, we would work to support that. You know, I would say that, you know, whether or not it's borne out that the offering of the Google form and the solicitation of questions in advance of the meeting is something we want to continue. I think one positive that's come out of this is that for years it was talked about live streaming the board meeting so that people could actually see the event live. That is now happening, something that hadn't happened for years. So that is an opportunity, that is an offering that the board now provides to the community, is to watch the board meeting live, whereas before it could just be a recording. We just view the recording of it. So that's a benefit. But in the end, you know, the board's kind of expressed their thoughts, and you know, I look forward to circling back with President Trigg Scales and seeing how we, you know, might change our approach if in any way moving forward. But I will say, I can see Ms. Graftisa grimacing under her mask, I must admit. Okay, because I've had multiple go-rounds with Mrs. Graftisa about the live stream, the participatory live stream option. And it can be done, but it requires a significant amount of human resource. And Ms. Graftisa could go into great detail about it. I could probably, you know, do okay with it. But, you know, you really need to have two separate operations functioning simultaneously, which is an online moderator, a moderator who's not only videotaping the board, but videotaping the people as they come up to speak. There are a lot of moving parts, and there is an expense associated with it, an increased expense by 2 to 3 times what we currently pay for board meetings. It would be 2 to 3 times that for the additional human resources and equipment that would be needed for that. So a lot to consider. That's all, President Trigg Scales.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I know I finished, but may I, one other thing I forgot to say?
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'll be brief. There was a question in the question, something that I took to heart was when the agenda is posted, is made public and all of the attachments. I mean, we all know that it takes a significant amount of time to read through everything and formulate any questions you have. And what I was wondering is whether there's some leeway there to consider an amount of time after the agenda is made public as opposed to a specific like 4 p.m. on Friday deadline. I know that that could be complicated, but that, you know, some amount of time I think is reasonable to ask for.
If I'm not mistaken, Ms. Flowers, it opens up basically contemporaneously on the Friday, typically when we post the agenda, and it remains open until Monday 4 p.m.
Oh, apologies.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
I thought Friday at 4, and I was thinking that's not a lot of
Right,
time. So
because the board gets their packets
Sure.
on Friday afternoon, so it couldn't be before that. So it's through Monday, so it's the week.
I withdraw my statement. Strike it
That's
from the
okay.
record.
No problemo. All right, so we're up to additional board reports. If folks have anything else to say, Ms. Huerta?
I just wanted to share another 2 workshops that I attended at the conference that I found very interesting and informative. One was ACEs in the classroom and are we prepared? And they discussed in depth about children and childhood. What does the ACE stand for? I'm sorry. Adverse child experiences. There you go. I'm sorry. But I did want to highlight one of our community members, Dr. Janice Dias Johnson, who did write a book called Parent Like It Matters. And in this book, she discusses childhood, ACEs and the effects parents have of raising children and having their own ACEs and not acknowledging that. And so I thought that perhaps we could do something in that regard to highlight some of the work that she has done in the research with our community members. And another workshop that I found really informative was a board member's personal responsibility. And I thought that there was so much information. You definitely needed to go back into it. But one of the best visuals that I saw so far, sorry, I lost my, why does a board of education exist? Like the redundancy in governance and why we exist. I thought that was such a great Google document that she created herself. This is a board member who has served on Board of Education for many terms. And so the amount of knowledge and the research that she has done, Jean Trujillo, sorry, I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly, but I think that would be great to share with the community members on our Board of Ed website because it's a very general explanation of why we exist. And that would be, you know what, I'm sorry. I did want to make one more comment about the presentation that we just saw with the diversity and equity update. One of the questions that Dr. Pollins posed was, how do we create experiences for our student body? And this was addressed in the Love and Unity talk that Dr. Cascone was a part of with Town Council President Cindy Matute Brown. And one of the things that Cindy Matute Brown mentioned was showing up for each other. For example, when we have events like a Hispanic Heritage event or an Italian flag raising or the beautiful ceremony of the Diwali event, not just those communities are invited. It's something that you can experience. You don't have to have the same religion or the same cultural background and just be able to participate and share that moment with your community members. I thought was really important. And, to Cheryl's comment, she said, we both were raised here. We both are from West Orange and we both went to the public schools here. However, our lived experiences and the nuances in our experiences are very different. we come from different socioeconomic backgrounds, different cultural backgrounds, and we just have very different lived experiences and nuances in our lives that make it individual for us. And that was all.
Thank you. Points well taken. Ms. Merklinger.
Sure. Just to clarify, I actually don't come from a different socioeconomic background as you, but I just want to make sure that was understood. But just in terms of things going on, like Dr. Cascone mentioned earlier, and our student liaisons, I think, might have mentioned it, but our West Orange High School football team is playing East Orange in the semifinals for the state championship, 1 p.m. on Saturday at East Orange. But I did want to shout out to our freshman football team who went 9-0 and undefeated, which is something I think hasn't happened for almost 25 years. If I understood from Mr. Zakella, I think mentioned that it's been a while. So there's some debates going on between football teams within the high school community, but they went 9-0. So I just want to shout out to the freshman football team on a great season. And our own Miss Flowers' son is on that team. So congratulations. The Laramie Project is on November 12th and 13th. So if you haven't gotten your tickets, I don't know if the tickets are on sale just yet. They are, right? I thought I saw that. So tickets are available. And our soccer teams, we heard that they are advancing to states, girls and boys. So that awesome job, and hope everyone can come out to see them. And that's it.
Thank you. Mr. Rothstein.
Love to see students succeeding, and just wanted to reflect back on the Broadway night a couple of weeks ago and how amazing a performance that was. And congratulations to all of the students and faculty who put that together. It was just a phenomenal night that just, I think, awed everybody in the audience with the incredible amount of talent and effort up on that stage. So thank you all and congratulations. And then also just wanted to wish a very happy birthday this week to a West Orange High School student named Abigail.
Oh, that's sweet. Happy birthday. And to Miss Graftiza, who performed that evening at Broadway Cares. So that's great. Vice President Tunnicliffe.
I just wanted to say over the last couple of weeks, there's been so much activity, especially here at the high school, going to the football game with all the middle school students, and the cheerleaders performed, and the marching band performed. And since my son is in marching band, I've been sort of following the marching band around and going down to the States and seeing them perform in some of the other districts. I'm just really proud to be a New Jersey resident and be able to, that invests in the arts, and that we have such an amazing arts program here. I also was at the Broadway night, and I'm looking forward to seeing the Laramie Project this weekend. So there's just so many good things going on right now, and it really inspires me to be a better board member and continue all the great things that we're doing here in the district. So thank you.
Thank you. And I think everybody has covered everything that I wanted to say, but I wanted to wish our veterans a happy Veterans Day on Thursday, as we honor all of those citizens who have served. And we say thank you for your service. The Laramie Project. I've been researching and talking to Ms. Graftiza. So I just want to say a little bit about what it is and what it's about. We've been talking about attending. So it is a play written about a reaction to the 1998 murder of a gay university student in Laramie, Wyoming. And it's a high-tech theater, I guess we can say. All of the scenery is projected on the screen there in the auditorium, and it is rated PG-13. So I wanted to make sure folks knew that. And that our senior citizens, if you're listening, Thursday evening at 7, you are welcome, free of charge. And then Friday and Saturday at 7 for everyone else. And I think that's all of mine. And just the love and unity, I wanted to just mention, Dr. Cascone represented our district so well, our equity and diversity projects. The board last year passed its equity bylaws. And I feel really proud that we are living up to what we said we were going to do. And tonight was certainly testimony to that. And so I'm feeling pretty proud myself. All right, so our next board meeting is to be held at 7:30 p.m. on November 22nd, 2021, here at West Orange High School. And we hope that you will come out and join us. And I want to thank everyone who made our meeting possible this evening. You don't see them there behind the scenes, but thank you so much. And I'd like to get a motion to adjourn, if you're so inclined.
So moved.
Thank you, Vice President Tunnicliffe. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Huerta. And I guess we can all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. This meeting is officially adjourned.